Edison Park. We're an elementary school in the northwest side. The team that was made up for this design challenge is 8 people. So we have an instructional leadership team that consists of 6. And then we also invited in 2 teachers that were part of our design cycle in December when we did it. And so a total of 8, and a wide range, as you can see, of what their specialties are within the school. As a school vision, we want to make sure that we are providing a positive, purposeful, productive community for all. And each year we kind of have these themes. And so this year is talking about kindness, acceptance, and inclusion. When we talk about our CIWP priorities, we've been focusing on grading practices, student support, and especially aligned curriculum. So what we focused on here for the design challenge, it certainly falls within the aligned curriculum. As we look back and how we got to this point, because it's important to know, school year 2018, I was new to the school and still building trust with staff. 2019, we started talking about curriculum alignment, as well as grading practices and student supports, but focusing a lot on curriculum alignment. School year 2020 in the fall of 2019, we started really looking at analyzing text. And then last year was strictly survival. So we kind of pumped the brakes on professional development. And now this year returning, our main focus was talking about the social emotional support for both students and staff. That was, we knew returning to in-person instruction was going to be an adjustment for all. And then revisit best practices, right? Like we're back in the classroom with all students. And now, as we're getting back into the swing of things and looking at supporting the most underserved, which is perfect for this presentation or a design challenge. So we decided to focus on a single class within our 3rd grade. We have 2 classes per grade level. And this class has been especially hit hard over the last few years. So you can see at the top that 2019 was our last full year of school. And then on the left side, during that 2020 year, 2019 was when they were in kindergarten. 2020 would be when they were in 1st grade, and we had a teacher strike in the fall that I'm sure most of you know about, and then also with the school closing starting because of starting with COVID in March. Then last year was remote and hybrid learning, so teachers adjusting and students adjusting, which wasn't ideal. And then this school year, the main teacher for this class was out on leave due to a surgery. And so we actually had 2 longer term subs before she returned. So a total of 3 teachers and, and we didn't, that these students were exposed to. So jumping into the project, we really wanted to consider all of these different things before we chose this group as well. And we think about test data, as well as they never were able to complete our foundations program, which is a 4-year phonics program. We talk about the group and is that one single class, and we're talking about are we focusing on tasks that will allow us to close these learning gaps. We interviewed 8 3rd graders. Originally it was 7 because we didn't know if I would intimidate any of them, but I ended up doing an interview. So we did all 8 on the team to interview students. And when we think about it, we talk about, we were purposeful about the students that we chose. For different reasons, right? Some strengths and weaknesses. Some were fully homeschooled last year, some weren't. So it was a combination of thinking about what students would be able to give us the information that we need. And then also very purposeful about the questions. Are we asking the right questions that get us the information to move forward to help this class? So this is just a rundown of the questions that we used. It's also included on the mural board and allowed for flexibility. Most are open-ended. When we talk about our action plan, we have a lot of information. We just interviewed a whole bunch of students, so we got a lot of data. And the stage that we're going to try to complete either today or possibly when we return from spring break is to organize those ideas and start to see, what is, going back. Then trying to narrow down to an idea of like what's going to help us move forward. So once we look at those, we want to do the empathy insight. So our group is ready right now. We're going to be doing this empathy exercise and looking at exactly what's going to help meet those unmet needs for the students. And then the next stage would be that brainstorming, right? We'll just dump ideas and think about, hey, what are we going to actually do? So when we think about, hey, this is where we start to narrow down and help these students. Moving forward from that, that's going to be where we come up with our prototype. And actually going through this process that we're end up doing 2 prototypes. One is going to be the academic model to help these students, and that can be hopefully replicated in different ways. And then also building a tool to help people understand the design process. So when we look at both of them, the top is the academic model, and we're going to come up with some type of thing or whatever it will be to do with the students. We'll design it, we'll test it, come back and analyze it, and then see what could be improved, and either do it with the other 3rd grade class or other classes within the school. And then building this tool, again, of helping people understand and following the same process. So originally I put for budget for the 10,000, and we broken up for paying teachers to go through this and then materials that we might need. The communication plan is to first introduce to the teacher on the left-hand side and then to the staff on the end. And measures of success would be these 2 academic models. Did it work? That would include interviews and student feedback, as well as the design process tool. Are we using it? And so artifacts, I know I'm about 10 seconds over. This would be something that we could walk away with, where it might be a step-by-step to help groups either inside or outside of the school understand the design cycle and see how it impacted our students positively, hopefully, and seeing results. And then thinking about all these ways that it can be used in this reflection piece. So that's our very quick pitch. So thank you for your time.
Thanks, Jeff. And so our judges, if you have any questions or feedback, you have about 3 minutes.
Thank you. That was a great presentation. Thank you for sharing all of those details about your plans. One question, you went rather quickly, obviously, understandably, through the slide that talked about your communication plan. Can you talk a little bit more about how you're going to engage with your stakeholders?
Yeah, so on the left-hand side, you can see that the teacher, Miss Perns, on the right, in that right side of the first box. She's the teacher of room 220. And so it would be the ILT. The first step would say, hey, whatever prototype we come up with, we want to make sure that the teacher is aware of it and what we're planning. So either she's going to be carrying out or possibly we might be carrying it out. Then step 2 would be going through that prototype and testing it, analyzing the results. And so depending on what we decide, it might be at the end of this school year, but it also might be something that is carried over into 4th grade. Then on the right-hand side, which I'll move, we talk about, hey, informing staff, right? So in May, we have these 1-hour after school meetings, and really like, hey, basically doing a similar presentation as now, like, here's a design cycle we have used. It's a way that we might want to use in the future to help with problems or issues of unmet needs. And then here's what we're doing specifically with Ms. Burns's class. And then in August of 2022, thinking about sharing the results if they're ready, but then also kind of gathering interest from others that might want to use this design cycle and think about issues that are happening in their classrooms for unmet needs.
Wonderful, thank you.
Yes, echoing that, it was a great presentation. One, I know you touched on this briefly, but if you could maybe expand a little bit as what does success look like and what are those measurements to define that success?
Yeah, and I went through this quite quickly. So the academic model would definitely have to do, because we're trying to close the learning gap. So when we talk about the academic model is have the learning gaps closed, right? And so there would be some type of assessments to see if those have been closed and are they at grade level. But also, I think, which is more impactful, is to include the teacher and student feedback when we talk about, like, hey, what was the, how did this feel? Did it feel successful? What ways to improve so then we can do it in the future. So one certain measurement would be a type of assessment, and then second would be student interviews. And then, the twofold of this is that, is to have a design process tool, and internal measurements would be, hey, are we using this? Yes or no? Are we meeting unmet needs? Yes or no? How often are we using this process? And is it effective? And I think, is it effective in the sense of measuring, did we meet the needs? But then 2, is it effective that people understand the design process? Because eventually I don't want to be the captain lead, right? I want to push this on to teachers. So then it twofold for that second prototype is sharing this with other schools and teachers, And ultimately, one huge thing would be, are my teachers able to be some type of a consultant model where they might be working with other schools and teachers and kind of say what it was like to go through this process and what it looked like in their classrooms.